Welcome to Zoe Stories. Mom's estrogen pills completely transformed me. I never imagined my life could change so completely in just a few weeks. My name is Ryan, and up until recently, I was living a fairly ordinary life. College was routine, part-time work at the local electronics store kept me busy, and evenings were often spent scrolling endlessly on my phone or gaming with friends. I was content. But I also felt something was missing, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. A restlessness, a nagging curiosity about sides of myself I'd never fully explored. My mom, however, always seemed to understand things about me that I didn't understand myself. She had this way of observing, of seeing the faintest hints of who I was meant to be. And sometimes, her ways of nudging me towards self-discovery were unusual. It all started one Saturday morning. The sunlight streamed through my bedroom window, painting the walls a warm gold. I was groggily rubbing my eyes when Mom knocked lightly on the door. She stepped in, holding a small bottle of pills in her hand. "Ryan," she said, her voice calm but firm, "I think it's time we had a serious conversation about you." I frowned, sitting up in bed, wary. "About me?" I asked. She nodded, her eyes softening. "Yes, about the real you. The part of you that you've been hiding even from yourself." Her words sent a chill down my spine. She placed the bottle on my desk. "These are estrogen pills," she said quietly. "They can help you explore the side of yourself you've been curious about. If you want to be more in tune with your true self, these can help." I blinked, unsure if I had heard her correctly. "Estrogen pills?" My voice wavered. Part of me laughed nervously, trying to brush it off as a joke. But there was something in her tone, a seriousness that made my stomach knot with anticipation and fear. Mom pulled a chair next to my bed, sitting down and placing her hand over mine. "Ryan, I know this might seem extreme, but I've been thinking about you for years. And I believe you'll find a side of yourself you didn't know existed, a side that's beautiful, confident, and truly you. You don't have to decide right now, but I want you to think about it seriously." I stared at her, conflicted. On one hand, the idea terrified me. What would people think? My friends, my girlfriend Emma, could they ever accept me if I took this path? On the other hand, the idea sparked something deep inside me. A thrilling curiosity, a hidden excitement that I couldn't ignore. I had always experimented secretly, trying on my sister's skirts, practicing subtle makeup, but I'd never imagined taking such a permanent step.
Emma.
My girlfriend. I loved her, but would she understand? Would she even still see me the same way if I changed, if my body began to transform in ways I had only dared to imagine in private? The thought both excited and terrified me. "Ryan," Mom said gently, sensing my hesitation. "I'm not asking you to do anything you're not ready for. Just think about the possibilities. Imagine becoming the person you've only dared to dream about in secret. Imagine feeling completely comfortable in your own skin, in every aspect of who you are." Her words stirred something inside me that I couldn't ignore. I thought of the nights I had spent in my sister's closet, trying on her skirts, feeling the soft fabric against my legs, imagining what it would be like to be seen, truly seen, as someone entirely different. My pulse quickened at the memory. The estrogen pills weren't just chemicals. They were a key, a way to unlock the person I had been hiding, the identity I had longed to embrace. I need some time," I whispered finally. "I can't just decide right now." Mom smiled, a mix of pride and patience in her expression. "Of course, Ryan. Take all the time you need. Just remember, curiosity isn't wrong. And sometimes, the path to truly knowing yourself requires taking a risk." The rest of the day passed in a haze of thought. I couldn't stop imagining the changes, the possibilities. Would my voice soften? Would my face take on a delicate elegance I had only seen in mirrors when I experimented with makeup? Could I truly embrace this transformation without losing myself or my relationships? That evening, Emma called. Her voice was cheerful, but I could feel the weight of the secret I carried pressing down on me. I laughed along with her, but inside, I was spinning. Mom's words echoed in my mind. The curiosity, The fear, the excitement, it was overwhelming. By the time I went to bed, I had made a decision. I couldn't predict what would happen next, but I knew one thing for certain. My life was about to change. Completely. The estrogen pills on my desk weren't just medicine, they were a doorway. And once I stepped through, there would be no going back. As I drifted to sleep, a shiver of anticipation ran through me. I imagined the subtle swell of my body, the way my clothes would begin to fit differently, the thrill of seeing myself transform. I imagined the skirts I had secretly borrowed from my sister, the delicate makeup I would experiment with, and the high heels I had always dreamed of walking confidently in. My pulse quickened at the thought, my heartbeat echoing the suspense that now defined every moment of my life. And just before sleep claimed me, I whispered to myself, almost in disbelief, "Tomorrow, everything changes." The next morning, sunlight filtered gently through my curtains, illuminating the small bottle of estrogen pills on my desk. My heart pounded as I stared at them. Each capsule seemed to hum with potential, promising change, transformation, and a life I had only ever dared to imagine in secret. I picked one up, feeling its smooth surface between my fingers, and swallowed it with trembling anticipation. The first few hours passed uneventfully. I went about my morning routine almost mechanically, showering, brushing my teeth, and staring into the mirror with a nervous curiosity. There were no immediate changes, but a subtle shift began to creep into my awareness. My skin felt softer, almost hypersensitive to touch. The familiar contours of my body seemed different, more delicate. I tried to shrug it off as my imagination, but the thrill that coursed through me said otherwise. By lunchtime, I was restless. I couldn't sit still. I wandered into my sister's room, glancing at her wardrobe with a mixture of longing and mischief. The skirts, the blouses, the delicate fabrics, they all called to me. Normally, I would never dare, but today felt different. The pills, whatever they were doing, seemed to embolden me. My fingers hovered over a soft pink skirt, my pulse quickening as I imagined myself wearing it. I tried to convince myself I was just curious, that it was harmless. But as I slipped the skirt over my legs, feeling the silky fabric against my skin, a shiver ran through me. The mirror reflected a version of me I had only dreamed of, soft, delicate, feminine. My pulse raced, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through my veins. I adjusted the waistband, feeling the subtle weight of possibility pressing down on me. "What am I doing?" I whispered, my voice trembling. It sounded softer, lighter than usual, almost a hint of something more feminine threading through the timbre. The realization hit me, this wasn't just experimentation anymore. The pills were working. Slowly, subtly, I was changing. The afternoon passed in a blur of nervous excitement. I experimented further, trying on blouses and delicate tops, smoothing down fabric over my chest, noticing subtle curves beginning to form where there had been none before. My reflection stared back at me, both familiar and astonishingly different. I felt a mixture of awe and fear. Was this real? Could I really embrace this transformation? A knock on the door startled me, and I hastily adjusted the blouse, pulling it down over my newly forming chest. It was Emma. She had stopped by to check on me, unaware of the pills or the transformation already taking hold. My heart thudded in my chest, and I struggled to act normal, hiding the skirt and adjusting my posture. "Hey, Ryan. Thought I'd see how you're doing," Emma said cheerfully, stepping into my room. Her eyes flicked toward the desk, toward the small bottle I had left carelessly in plain sight. My pulse quickened. Could she suspect? I forced a casual smile. "Hey, Emma. Just chilling, you know. How's your day?" She smiled, oblivious, but I felt a pang of fear mixed with excitement. What would happen when she realized the transformation? Would she accept me, or would she recoil in shock? I couldn't stop thinking about the possibilities, each one a mixture of desire and anxiety. After she left, I returned to the mirror. The change was subtle, but undeniable. My face appeared softer, more delicate, the beginnings of curves forming along my body. I ran my fingers along my jawline and chest, feeling the smoothness, the subtle femininity taking root. My pulse raced. The pills were changing me, not just physically, but emotionally. Every touch, every glance, every reflection heightened the suspense, the thrill of the unknown. By evening, I could barely contain myself. The idea of walking around in full feminine attire, fully embracing the transformation, consumed me. I carefully selected an outfit, a soft pink blouse paired with a flowing skirt, complemented by tights and my sister's heels. The act of dressing was electric, each motion heightened by the knowledge that I was stepping further into a new identity. The mirror reflected a stunningly different me. My cheeks were subtly flushed, lips softer, eyes brighter. I ran my fingers through my hair, noting the softness and shine. Each detail heightened the suspense, the thrill, the vulnerability, the fear of discovery. And yet, I couldn't resist. I wanted more. As night fell, I practiced walking in heels, feeling the subtle sway of my hips and the rhythm of movement that felt both alien and exhilarating. My reflection became a symbol of the transformation, a tangible reminder of how much I was changing and how far I could go. The estrogen pills had unlocked a door, and I had stepped through it willingly, yet with a nervous heart. Finally, as I prepared for bed, I took another pill, feeling a shiver of anticipation. The suspense of the unknown loomed large. How far would this go? What would happen to Emma, to my life, to the person I had always been? The thrill, fear, and excitement mingled, leaving me breathless and exhilarated. I lay in bed, the soft fabric of the skirt against my skin, feeling my body subtly shifting beneath it. The mirror across the room caught the reflection of my legs, delicate and unfamiliar, and I shivered with anticipation. My pulse echoed in my ears. Tomorrow promised more change, more suspense, and a transformation that would alter my life forever. And as sleep claimed me, I whispered softly to myself, I can't turn back now. I don't want to. The next morning, sunlight filtered gently through my curtains, illuminating the small bottle of estrogen pills on my desk. My heart pounded as I stared at them. Each capsule seemed to hum with potential, promising change, transformation, and a life I had only ever dared to imagine in secret. I picked one up, feeling its smooth surface between my fingers, and swallowed it with trembling anticipation. The first few hours passed uneventfully. I went about my morning routine almost mechanically, showering, brushing my teeth, and staring into the mirror with a nervous curiosity. There were no immediate changes, but a subtle shift began to creep into my awareness. My skin felt softer, almost hypersensitive to touch. The familiar contours of my body seemed different, more delicate. I tried to shrug it off as my imagination, but the thrill that coursed through me said otherwise. By lunchtime, I was restless. I couldn't sit still. I wandered into my sister's room, glancing at her wardrobe with a mixture of longing and mischief. The skirts, the blouses, the delicate fabrics, they all called to me. Normally, I would never dare, but today felt different. The pills, whatever they were doing, seemed to embolden me. My fingers hovered over a soft pink skirt, my pulse quickening as I imagined myself wearing it. I tried to convince myself I was just curious, that it was harmless. But as I slipped the skirt over my legs, feeling the silky fabric against my skin, a shiver ran through me. The mirror reflected a version of me I had only dreamed of, soft, delicate, feminine. My pulse raced, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through my veins. I adjusted the waistband, feeling the subtle weight of possibility pressing down on me. "What am I doing?" I whispered, my voice trembling. It sounded softer, lighter than usual, almost a hint of something more feminine threading through the timbre. The realization hit me, this wasn't just experimentation anymore. The pills were working. Slowly, subtly, I was changing. The afternoon passed in a blur of nervous excitement. I experimented further, trying on blouses and delicate tops, smoothing down fabric over my chest, noticing subtle curves beginning to form where there had been none before. My reflection stared back at me, both familiar and astonishingly different. I felt a mixture of awe and fear. Was this real? Could I really embrace this transformation? A knock on the door startled me, and I hastily adjusted the blouse, pulling it down over my newly forming chest. It was Emma. She had stopped by to check on me, unaware of the pills or the transformation already taking hold. My heart thudded in my chest, and I struggled to act normal, hiding the skirt and adjusting my posture. "Hey, Ryan. Thought I'd see how you're doing," Emma said cheerfully, stepping into my room. Her eyes flicked toward the desk, toward the small bottle I had left carelessly in plain sight. My pulse quickened. Could she suspect? I forced a casual smile. "Hey, Emma. Just chilling, you know. How's your day?" She smiled, oblivious, but I felt a pang of fear mixed with excitement. What would happen when she realized the transformation? Would she accept me, or would she recoil in shock? I couldn't stop thinking about the possibilities, each one a mixture of desire and anxiety. After she left, I returned to the mirror. The change was subtle but undeniable. My face appeared softer, more delicate, the beginnings of curves forming along my body. I ran my fingers along my jawline and chest, feeling the smoothness, the subtle femininity taking root. My pulse raced. The pills were changing me, not just physically but emotionally. Every touch, every glance, every reflection heightened the suspense, the thrill of the unknown. By evening, I could barely contain myself. The idea of walking around in full feminine attire, fully embracing the transformation, consumed me. I carefully selected an outfit, a soft pink blouse paired with a flowing skirt, complemented by tights and my sister's heels. The act of dressing was electric, each motion heightened by the knowledge that I was stepping further into a new identity. The mirror reflected a stunningly different me. My cheeks were subtly flushed, lips softer, eyes brighter. I ran my fingers through my hair, noting the softness and shine. Each detail heightened the suspense, the thrill, the vulnerability, the fear of discovery. And yet, I couldn't resist. I wanted more. As night fell, I practiced walking in heels, feeling the subtle sway of my hips and the rhythm of movement that felt both alien and exhilarating. My reflection became a symbol of the transformation, a tangible reminder of how much I was changing and how far I could go. The estrogen pills had unlocked a door, and I had stepped through it willingly, yet with a nervous heart. Finally, as I prepared for bed, I took another pill, feeling a shiver of anticipation. The suspense of the unknown loomed large. How far would this go? What would happen to Emma, to my life, to the person I had always been? The thrill, fear, and excitement mingled, leaving me breathless and exhilarated. I lay in bed, the soft fabric of the skirt against my skin, feeling my body subtly shifting beneath it. The mirror across the room caught the reflection of my legs, delicate and unfamiliar, and I shivered with anticipation. My pulse echoed in my ears. Tomorrow promised more change, more suspense, and a transformation that would alter my life forever. And as sleep claimed me, I whispered softly to myself, "I can't turn back now. I don't want to." The next morning, I awoke feeling an unfamiliar heaviness in my chest, a subtle fullness that hadn't been there before. My reflection in the mirror confirmed it. My body was changing in ways I hadn't dared imagine. The estrogen pills were accelerating the transformation, and every new curve, every softening of my features made my pulse race. I felt a mixture of awe, excitement, and a flicker of fear. I moved carefully, as if every step might reveal the changes too quickly to anyone who looked. Dressing that morning was a delicate ritual. I chose a floral blouse that accentuated the soft contours of my chest and a skirt that flowed gracefully over my hips. The moment I slid on my sister's tights and heels, I was acutely aware of the swaying motion of my hips and the delicate weight of my body shifting. Each movement was electric, a subtle thrill of both vulnerability and empowerment. Practicing walking became an obsession. I traced slow steps across the room, feeling the rhythm of my body in a new way. The soft click of my heels on the hardwood floor echoed like a drumbeat of suspense. Each sway, each gentle adjustment of the skirt, heightened my awareness of how drastically I had changed and how dramatically I could present myself to the world. Mom had returned home earlier than usual, catching me mid-stride. I froze, heart hammering, but her expression was calm, almost approving. "You're becoming more confident each day," she said softly. "The pills aren't just changing your body, they're helping you embrace who you are." Her words should have comforted me, yet they only intensified the suspense. Every shadow in the room, every creak of the floorboards felt like a potential exposure. My thoughts raced with questions. What if Emma saw me like this? What would my friends think if they discovered my secret? Could I ever go back to the way I was? Unable to resist the temptation, I moved toward the mirror and ran my fingers through my hair. It was softer, more voluminous, with a natural shine I hadn't known I could have. Applying a hint of eyeliner and lip gloss, I felt the thrill of seeing a reflection that was unmistakably feminine. My pulse quickened, and I shivered with anticipation. The suspense wasn't just about fear, it was about the intoxicating realization of what I could become. By afternoon, I decided to venture further. I slipped into a more elaborate outfit, one of my sister's dresses that hugged my new curves and emphasized the transformation. The sensation of fabric against my body, the weight of the dress, and the delicate swish of the skirt as I moved created a cocktail of excitement and anxiety. Each glance at my reflection left me both breathless and slightly terrified. I practiced subtle movements, adjusting my posture and learning to carry myself with poise. Every flick of the hair, every shift in weight, made me feel more like the person I was becoming, yet also more exposed. I couldn't shake the fear of being discovered, and that fear only made the thrill more intense. The suspense deepened when my phone buzzed. A text from Emma flashed on the screen. "Thinking of dropping by later? Can't wait to see you." My heart raced. Could I maintain this delicate balance of secrecy and transformation if she came home early? Panic and excitement collided in my chest. I considered hiding, but the thought of being seen like this, so fully transformed, made my pulse spike with both fear and exhilaration. I spent the next few hours practicing concealment and movement simultaneously. Every step, every gesture was a negotiation between desire and anxiety. I shifted from room to room, pretending to be casual, but constantly aware that any misstep could reveal the changes that were no longer subtle. Mom noticed my tense energy and placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Relax," she said. "Part of this is learning to move confidently in your new body. The world will notice, but you'll grow stronger each day." Her words were comforting, yet the suspense of being discovered lingered like a shadow over my exhilaration. Evening approached, and I practiced more daring movements, turning in front of the mirror, experimenting with different hairstyles, and testing how the dress accentuated my curves with each step. I was mesmerized by the reflection, caught between fear and longing. The estrogen pills had opened a door, and every moment I spent in this new persona intensified the suspense of what was to come. Finally, as night fell, I carefully lined up another pill on my nightstand. Swallowing it, I felt a tingling anticipation coursing through my body. Tomorrow promised further changes, more transformation, and an escalation of the thrilling suspense that had already taken hold. Lying in bed, skirt clinging softly to my legs, I whispered to myself, "I'm no longer just hiding. I'm becoming something else, something beautiful, and there's no turning back now." The following day began with a strange mixture of anticipation and dread. I woke to the subtle, almost imperceptible shift in my body that had become my new normal, the slight curve of my hips, the softening of my chest, and the delicate roundness of my face. Each detail sent a shiver through me. I rose cautiously, aware that every movement could betray my transformation if someone were to walk in unexpectedly. I moved to the mirror and studied myself intently. My reflection had evolved further overnight. The soft curves of my body were more pronounced, and my facial features had taken on an unmistakably feminine quality. My lips were fuller, my eyes brighter, and the lines of my jaw had softened in a way that made me catch my breath. There was no denying it. I was changing beyond my control, and the suspense of how far I would go left me both terrified and exhilarated. Choosing an outfit became a strategic ritual. I selected a fitted blouse and a flowing skirt from my sister's collection, carefully layering each piece to accentuate my curves while trying to maintain a semblance of subtlety. Slipping into tights and heels, I felt the familiar thrill of swaying hips and precarious balance. My body seemed to have a mind of its own, moving with a newfound grace that made every step feel like a performance. I practiced walking and adjusting my posture, ensuring that every gesture looked natural. Each glance at my reflection reinforced the dramatic shift in my identity. I caught myself imagining anyone seeing me like this. The fear of exposure mingled with the addictive excitement of transformation. I was constantly aware of the potential for discovery, and that awareness heightened every sensation, making my new form feel both intoxicating and dangerously fragile. Mom returned home mid-morning, her eyes instantly catching mine. A small, approving smile curved her lips. "You're becoming more comfortable in your skin," she said softly. "Embrace it. The world will adapt to this new you, just as you are learning to adapt yourself." Her words were both comforting and terrifying. I wanted to believe her, to surrender to the transformation fully, yet a lingering anxiety gnawed at me. What if Emma came home early again? What if a neighbor or family friend walked in unexpectedly? The stakes of secrecy had never felt higher, and that tension electrified every nerve in my body. By afternoon, I decided to push the boundaries further. I experimented with makeup more boldly, blending eyeshadow, highlighting my cheekbones, and contouring my jawline. The brushstrokes across my face were deliberate, almost reverent, each movement deepening the feminine illusion. When I applied lipstick, I paused to admire the subtle curve it added to my lips, my pulse quickening with every glance in the mirror. The suspense escalated when I heard the faint click of the front door. My heart leapt into my throat. I froze, balancing delicately on my heels, skirt swaying slightly with my rapid movements. Mom had returned early from her errands, but the tension of being caught still coursed through me. "Ryan," she called softly, "you're pushing yourself too far. Remember to stay composed." I nodded, but my mind raced. The thrill of being seen, combined with the fear of exposure, created a heady cocktail of emotions. Every step I took across the room felt amplified, each swish of fabric, each delicate sway of my hips magnified in my awareness. I practiced subtle movements, flicking my hair, adjusting my blouse, and ensuring that my posture conveyed elegance and confidence. Later, I received a message from Emma. "Heading over soon. Hope you're ready for our little date." My stomach twisted in a mixture of excitement and panic. Could I maintain this secret if she arrived earlier than expected? Could I embody the new me convincingly without slipping? The suspense was unbearable, yet I was addicted to it. The hours passed in a tense blur. I rehearsed every gesture, every tilt of my head, every flick of my hair. Each step was a balancing act between fear and exhilaration. The estrogen pills had intensified my body's changes, making every movement more sensual, more fluid, more undeniably feminine. I had become a living experiment in transformation, and the suspense of whether I could maintain control consumed me. As night fell, I carefully lined up another pill. Swallowing it, I felt anticipation ripple through my body. The next day promised further change, and with it a new wave of suspense. My reflection in the mirror seemed to watch me knowingly, a teasing promise of the next evolution. Lying in bed, skirt clinging softly to my legs, I whispered into the darkness. "Tomorrow, I will be more than a secret. Tomorrow, I will be something unforgettable." The thrill, the fear, and the suspense intertwined, leaving me on the edge of discovery and transformation. The morning sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting delicate lines across the room. I sat on the edge of my bed, legs crossed in my sister's flowing skirt, feeling a strange flutter in my chest. The estrogen pills were working faster than I anticipated. My body had fully embraced subtle curves, My skin was impossibly soft, and the contours of my face had softened to reveal a strikingly feminine beauty. Even the morning breeze against my exposed arms sent shivers of both excitement and apprehension down my spine. I carefully selected an outfit for the day, a delicate, pastel-colored dress that hugged my waist and swayed lightly with every movement. The fabric felt foreign yet thrilling, almost as if it were alive against my skin. I paired it with sheer tights and a pair of sleek heels, testing the balance and the sway of my hips as I walked across the room. Each step felt like a performance, every glance in the mirror a mix of awe and self-consciousness. The reflection staring back at me was mesmerizing. I barely recognized myself anymore. My features were softer, more refined, with an elegance I had only dreamed of. My hair fell in soft waves around my shoulders, perfectly framing my transformed face. The lips I had carefully painted glistened under the sunlight, a delicate pink that added to the illusion. I could feel a pulse of power mixed with vulnerability running through me. The thrill of transformation had reached a point where fear and exhilaration were indistinguishable. Mom had left for the day, and I was alone in the house, a dangerous but irresistible opportunity. The silence of the rooms amplified every small sound, the soft swish of my dress, the delicate click of my heels, even the gentle rustle of my hair as I turned. The suspense was intoxicating. Each movement, each subtle adjustment of my outfit, was both an exploration of my new identity and a test of my ability to remain undetected. I spent hours experimenting with makeup. Today, I dared to go bolder, contouring my cheeks to enhance the softness of my face, accentuating my eyes with layers of eyeliner and mascara, and adding a hint of shimmer to my lips. Each brushstroke was electric, sending shivers down my spine and heightening the suspense of what might happen if someone walked in unexpectedly. I felt alive in a way I had never experienced, every sense heightened, every nerve tingling. By midday, I decided to venture outside. I had never worn my sister's clothes publicly, and the thought of doing so sent my heart into overdrive. Each step down the driveway was a battle between fear and exhilaration. The soft sway of my skirt, the confident tilt of my head, the click of my heels against the pavement, it all felt like a dance, a performance for an invisible audience. Neighbors passed by, and I felt my pulse spike with every glance. Some looked curiously, some not at all, but the suspense of being watched, of potentially being recognized, was addictive. Each encounter was a delicate negotiation between exposure and secrecy. I caught myself imagining Emma appearing suddenly, her eyes widening in shock at my transformed appearance. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, mixing fear with an undeniable thrill. Returning home, I noticed subtle changes that had taken place overnight. The soft curve of my waist, the new roundness in my hips, the gentle tilt of my shoulders. Every detail of my body had been reshaped, and with it, my perception of myself had shifted. I was no longer the same person who had hesitated in front of the mirror days ago. I was a living embodiment of transformation, each movement and glance a testament to the changes within me. The afternoon passed in a tense blur. I practiced walking, adjusting my posture, experimenting with different gestures, each one a rehearsal for the possibility of being seen. I became acutely aware of the vulnerability in my movements, the way every sway and tilt revealed more of my new identity. The suspense was electric, a constant reminder of how exposed I had become, even in the safety of my own home. As evening approached, my phone buzzed. A message from Emma. "Can I come by a little earlier? Want to see you." My heart raced. I was fully transformed now, dressed in delicate pastel, hair and makeup perfect, yet the thrill of being discovered made every nerve scream. Could I greet her like this, or would I have to hide? The suspense was unbearable, yet I couldn't help but feel exhilarated at the thought of being seen. I lined up the last pill for the day, swallowing it with a trembling hand. My body tingled with anticipation, ready for the next phase of transformation. Lying on my bed, I traced the edge of my skirt with my fingers, my reflection in the mirror whispering promises of the next evolution. I was on the edge, caught between fear, excitement, and the undeniable pull of who I was becoming. Tomorrow, I thought, everything changes. There's no turning back. The next morning dawned with a mixture of excitement and terror. I awoke to the faint warmth of sunlight spilling across my bedroom floor, highlighting the contours of my newly transformed body. My reflection in the mirror was mesmerizing, soft curves, delicate features, and an elegance I could barely recognize as my own. I dressed quickly but carefully, choosing a fitted dress that accentuated every subtle change while maintaining a sense of modesty. The fabric hugged my waist, swayed lightly over my hips, and added a teasing elegance to my new form. My heart raced as I practiced walking, each step in the heels a delicate balancing act. The thrill of movement, combined with the tension of potential discovery, made my pulse spike with every swish of the dress and click of my shoes. Each subtle glance in the mirror reinforced the stark reality. My transformation had progressed beyond what I could control, and the world outside was waiting, oblivious to the secret I carried. Mom had left early that morning, leaving the house eerily quiet. The silence amplified every sound, the soft rustle of the dress, the click of my heels, even my own breathing. I couldn't shake the feeling that at any moment, someone might walk in and witness the full extent of my transformation. The suspense was intoxicating, a mixture of fear, desire, and anticipation. Suddenly, the front door creaked open. My heart leapt into my throat. A neighbor, someone I had barely met, stepped into the hallway. I froze, posture rigid, skirt swaying slightly as I held my breath. The visitor's eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment, the world seemed to tilt. Panic and exhilaration surged through me simultaneously. Would they recognize me? Would they question what they were seeing? The suspense of the unknown was almost unbearable. The neighbor smiled politely, unaware of my internal turmoil. "Morning," they said, stepping carefully past me. I forced a nod and a smile, trying to maintain composure. Every second stretched into an eternity, my pulse hammering in my ears. The thrill of nearly being discovered was unlike anything I had felt before, a dangerous, exhilarating mix of fear and liberation. Once the visitor left, I collapsed against the wall, heart racing, hands trembling slightly. The reality of my transformation was undeniable. My body, my posture, my very presence had become something entirely new, something both captivating and vulnerable. The estrogen pills had not only altered my physical form but had pushed me into a heightened state of suspense, a constant anticipation of what could go wrong at any moment. Determined to regain control, I moved to the mirror, adjusting my hair, smoothing the skirt, and practicing a natural smile. Each reflection revealed a new layer of identity, softened features, expressive eyes, and a delicate grace that seemed almost otherworldly. I was both mesmerized and terrified by what I saw. The suspense wasn't just external, it was internal, a constant push and pull between who I had been and who I was becoming. By mid-morning, a text arrived from Emma. "I might come by sooner than expected, can't wait to see you." My chest tightened. Panic surged as I realized I was fully transformed, every curve and contour exposed to the possibility of immediate discovery. The thrill of anticipation collided with sheer terror. I had to make a decision. Hide, risk being seen, or somehow maintain the illusion without revealing the full extent of my changes. I paced the room, heels clicking against the floor, trying to steady my racing thoughts. My body felt alive in a way I had never experienced before, every nerve, every movement heightened by the suspense of imminent exposure. I practiced subtle gestures, adjusting my hair, tilting my head, and walking with a careful sway, rehearsing for the moment Emma might enter. Each motion was deliberate, a balancing act between allure and concealment. Then I heard it, the faint jingle of keys in the lock. My pulse leapt. Emma was here. Panic, excitement, and desire collided in my chest, making my hands tremble. I hid behind the living room door, heart hammering, dress clinging to my body, trying to steady my breathing. Every second felt like an eternity. As the door opened and her figure appeared, I stepped forward, forcing a smile that I hoped seemed natural. Emma froze, eyes widening as she took in my transformed form. My pulse raced. The suspense had reached its peak. Would she laugh, gasp, or recoil? The moment hung in the air, heavy with anticipation, every second stretching impossibly long. This is it, I thought. There's no turning back now. Emma's eyes lingered on me for a long, suspended moment. The silence was deafening, each heartbeat echoing like a drum in my ears. My skirt swayed slightly as I shifted my weight, the soft rustle of fabric sounding unnaturally loud in the tense atmosphere. I could see the mixture of shock, curiosity, and disbelief on her face, and it sent a shiver down my spine. Finally, she spoke, her voice a blend of amusement and incredulity.
Wow.
I didn't expect this, she said, taking a cautious step closer. My pulse hammered so hard I feared it might betray me. Every instinct screamed to explain, to retreat, to somehow make sense of what she was seeing, but I was paralyzed, caught between fear and the intoxicating thrill of being revealed. Emma's gaze roamed over me, lingering on the subtle curves of my waist, the delicate lines of my shoulders, and the softness of my face. "Ryan, you look amazing," she admitted, her tone hesitant yet tinged with awe. The words made my chest tighten in a strange mixture of relief and vulnerability. She wasn't angry or judgmental, but the suspense remained unbearable. I didn't know if this was genuine acceptance or just the calm before a storm. I swallowed, forcing a nervous laugh. I've been experimenting, I stammered, my hands fluttering at my sides. The heels clicked softly against the floor as I shifted, conscious of every movement. Emma tilted her head, studying me carefully, as if trying to discern where the line between me and this new persona blurred. The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in as the tension escalated. I could feel the hormones in my system, the estrogen amplifying every emotion, making my heart race faster, my breath shallower. Every nerve ending seemed alive, every glance magnified, and the suspense became almost unbearable. The danger of discovery was no longer hypothetical, it was tangible, present, and utterly intoxicating. Then, just as I began to feel a fragile sense of calm, a sudden knock at the door jolted me. My stomach plummeted. Another visitor? Had Mom returned early? I froze, heels clicking as I took a step back, skirt swaying, heart pounding. Emma noticed immediately. "Who is it?" she asked, her tone sharp now, curiosity mingled with concern. I shook my head, uncertain. I don't know," I admitted, voice trembling. The knock came again, louder this time, reverberating through the house. The suspense was a physical weight pressing down on my chest, constricting my breath. I felt cornered, exposed, and utterly alive with the danger of the unknown. Emma stepped closer, eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Stay here," she instructed, moving toward the door. Panic surged through me. I didn't know whether to intervene or let her handle it. My heart raced as I watched her open the door, revealing a neighbor who had clearly seen enough to be curious and possibly suspicious. The neighbor's eyes immediately fell on me, lingering on the delicate dress, the soft curves, and the subtle elegance that I had cultivated. My pulse skyrocketed, adrenaline surging through me. Each second felt stretched, the suspense reaching a nearly unbearable peak. I had never felt so visible, so exposed, and yet so alive. Emma smiled reassuringly at the neighbor, but the tension in the room was palpable. I could feel every muscle in my body taut, every sense heightened. My reflection in the window behind me seemed to mock my vulnerability, showing me a version of myself that was both terrifying and exhilarating. The combination of fear, desire, and uncertainty made my body hum with anticipation. As the neighbor spoke, asking casual questions that I barely registered, I realized the stakes had shifted. This was no longer just about my transformation. It was about maintaining control, preserving the illusion, and navigating the treacherous line between secrecy and revelation. Every word, every gesture, Every subtle movement became a test of my composure, a delicate dance between exposure and concealment. Finally, the neighbor left, waving politely. The tension in the room didn't dissipate. If anything, it deepened. Emma turned to me, her eyes filled with a mixture of amusement, curiosity, and unspoken questions. I could feel the heat in my cheeks, the vulnerability of my new form amplified by the close call. The suspense was no longer external. It had seeped into every corner of my being, shaping the way I moved, spoke, and breathed. I exhaled slowly, trying to steady myself. The adrenaline still coursed through my veins, making my fingers tremble as I adjusted my skirt. Emma's gaze held me, unwavering, and I realized that this was only the beginning. The tension, the thrill, and the danger had escalated to a point where there was no turning back. I was fully exposed, fully transformed, and the suspense of what might come next consumed me entirely. The house fell into a tense silence once the neighbor departed, leaving only the soft rustle of my skirt and the faint ticking of the wall clock to fill the room. I stood frozen, heels digging slightly into the carpet, heart pounding as the adrenaline from the near discovery coursed through my body. Emma's gaze never wavered. She studied me intently, as if trying to peel back every layer of my new identity. I could feel the weight of her scrutiny pressing down on me, making every movement deliberate, every breath calculated. I didn't mean for anyone to see me like this, I admitted, voice trembling despite my best efforts at composure. The words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. My fingers fidgeted with the hem of my dress, tracing the delicate fabric as I tried to steady my nerves. Emma took a step closer, her expression softening, but the suspense remained palpable. She tilted her head, curiosity mingled with concern. "Ryan, this is a lot," she said quietly. "I can see how much you've changed, but are you okay with it? Do you want to be seen like this?" Her question pierced me. I had never considered fully confronting the implications of my transformation. The estrogen, the makeup, the heels, it wasn't just a thrill anymore. It had become a part of me, reshaping not only my body but my identity. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. I don't know, I admitted, feeling a flush of embarrassment. The tension in the room was suffocating. Each second stretched impossibly long, the suspense nearly tangible. I realized that this moment wasn't just about Emma's reaction. It was about confronting my own feelings, my desires, and the vulnerability that came with being fully exposed. Emma stepped closer, reaching out to gently touch my arm. The soft contact sent a shiver down my spine. "You're beautiful," she whispered. Her words, soft yet profound, stirred something deep within me. I felt an overwhelming mix of relief, excitement, and fear. The suspense of potential rejection had given way to a new tension, one of emotional intimacy and uncharted territory. But just as I began to relax slightly, a sudden sound shattered the fragile calm, a loud crash from the kitchen. My heart leapt into my throat, and I spun toward the source, heels clicking sharply against the floor. The sound of glass shattering echoed through the house, followed by the unmistakable hum of someone moving quickly. Panic surged through me. Was Mom back? Another visitor? Emma's eyes widened, and she grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the living room doorway. "Stay close," she hissed. The suspense tightened like a vice around my chest. Every nerve in my body screamed alert, my senses heightened to a painful degree. I clutched the hem of my dress, feeling its soft fabric against my trembling hands. The world had shrunk to the immediate danger, and yet, in that fear, I felt an electrifying thrill I couldn't deny. We crept toward the kitchen, stepping carefully, heels clacking softly. The smell of something burnt filled the air, perhaps a pot left on the stove, but the source of the crash remained elusive. My pulse raced as I peered around corners, every shadow a potential threat. Emma moved with surprising confidence, guiding me, her presence grounding me even as suspense and fear clawed at my mind. Finally, we saw it, a small, overturned stool and a shattered glass on the floor. Relief surged through me, though it was tinged with embarrassment. My body trembled, partly from fear, partly from the lingering adrenaline and partly from the undeniable thrill of the close call. The suspense had escalated to a crescendo, leaving me exhilarated, terrified, and profoundly aware of every sensation in my transformed body. Emma turned to me, a mixture of amusement and concern in her eyes. "You're definitely not ready for this kind of excitement alone," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Her hand lingered, grounding me in a way that was both comforting and electrifying. I realized then that the transformation had not only changed my body, but had also deepened the connection between us, creating a suspenseful, intimate tension that neither of us could ignore. I sank to the edge of the couch, dress swaying around me, heart still racing. The events of the morning had pushed me to my emotional and physical limits, leaving me suspended in a state of heightened awareness. The thrill, the fear, the desire to be seen and accepted, all collided into a potent mix that left me breathless. Emma knelt beside me, her eyes locking onto mine, and I understood that the true climax of this transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional, intimate, and irrevocably suspenseful. The afternoon light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the living room. My body still trembled slightly from the morning's near disasters, the adrenaline gradually giving way to an aching awareness of every curve, every sway of my dress, every sensation heightened by the estrogen coursing through me. Emma stayed close, her presence both comforting and electrifying, her eyes tracking every small movement I made. "I think we should try walking outside," she suggested cautiously, her tone a mix of encouragement and warning. My heart skipped a beat. The idea of being seen, even just on our quiet street, was terrifying, but part of me burned with curiosity and the thrill of exposure. The suspense was a living entity wrapping around me, urging me forward, and making every nerve tingle with anticipation. I nodded, hesitating only briefly before standing, feeling the delicate fabric of my dress brush against my thighs. My heels clicked softly against the floor as I practiced a few steps, balancing carefully, aware that one misstep could expose me or betray my transformation. Emma offered her hand, guiding me, and the warmth of her touch added both courage and tension. The thrill of walking fully transformed, under the potential gaze of neighbors, made my pulse spike with an almost unbearable intensity. We stepped outside. The sun felt warm against my skin, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers from nearby gardens. I felt exposed in a new way, every sense heightened, every movement conspicuous. The suspense of possibly being seen by a passerby or neighbor added a dangerous excitement, a mixture of fear and exhilaration that made my heart race and my palms sweat. Halfway down the driveway, I caught my reflection in the car window. My face, framed by softly styled hair, the subtle flush in my cheeks, and the curve of my lips, all perfectly complemented the outfit I wore. The reflection didn't just show me, it reflected the new identity I was inhabiting. A gasp escaped my lips as I realized how real, how permanent, and how thrilling this transformation had become. The suspense wasn't just outside, it was woven into the very core of who I had become. Then, a familiar voice called from across the street. "Ryan." Panic surged through me. I froze, heels digging into the pavement, dress clinging in the wrong places. A neighbor I knew well was walking toward us, curiosity etched on their face. Emma's grip tightened around my hand, silently signaling for me to stay calm. Every second stretched out in excruciating suspense. The neighbor's gaze fell on me, scanning from my carefully styled hair to the elegant line of my dress. I felt my face flush, my body rigid, but I forced a smile, trying to appear natural. The neighbor hesitated, puzzled but not hostile, and my pulse pounded like a drum. The threat of discovery was immediate, real, and terrifyingly exhilarating. Emma leaned close, whispering, "Just act normal. You've got this." Her encouragement was a lifeline, grounding me even as the suspense threatened to overwhelm. I nodded subtly, taking a deep breath, and began to walk with measured elegance, heels clicking softly on the pavement. The neighbor muttered something under their breath and continued on, leaving me trembling with relief and renewed adrenaline. Back inside, the suspense shifted from external threats to internal tension. I closed the door, leaning against it as the reality of my transformation settled over me like a heavy cloak. The estrogen had not only changed my body, it had heightened my emotions, amplified my desires, and sharpened my instincts. I was acutely aware of every heartbeat, every sensation, every flicker of doubt or desire. Emma watched me carefully, her eyes reflecting both admiration and intrigue. "You're handling this remarkably," she said softly. Her voice carried a mix of fascination and something deeper, something that made my stomach flutter with anticipation. The suspense was no longer just about being caught. It was about navigating this new identity, balancing fear, excitement, and the intoxicating thrill of transformation. Then, a sudden thought struck me, a symbolic moment I couldn't ignore. My dress had shifted slightly during our walk, revealing just enough to remind me of my vulnerability. I reached down instinctively, adjusting it, feeling the soft fabric against my skin. It was a small gesture, but it crystallized the emotional stakes. Every movement, every choice, every interaction was now laden with suspense, desire, and the potential for exposure. The afternoon stretched on, a tense blend of exhilaration and apprehension. Each tick of the clock, each distant sound outside, heightened my awareness, making me hyper-conscious of every sensation in my transformed body. The suspense had become an intimate, inescapable companion, thrilling, terrifying, and utterly consuming. As Emma approached, brushing a stray hair from my face, I realized the truth. The transformation wasn't just physical. It had reshaped my identity, my emotions, and the very way I experienced the world. And in that realization, the suspense became almost unbearable, a heady mixture of fear, excitement, and desire that promised even greater challenges to come. The evening descended quickly, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, and with it came an almost tangible tension that clung to the house like a heavy fog. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of distant traffic, even the faint whisper of wind through the trees, set my nerves on edge. My transformed body felt heightened, every curve, every movement, every sway of my dress amplified by the estrogen and the thrill of the day. Emma stood beside me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. Her presence was grounding, yet the suspense of what had unfolded earlier, and what might still happen, made every sensation sharper. I felt caught between exhilaration and fear, desire and vulnerability. Tonight wasn't just about walking in a dress or being seen. It was about confronting the full consequences of my transformation. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door jolted me upright. My stomach plummeted. Not again, I thought. My heart hammered in my chest as I realized that the day's suspense had reached a climax I hadn't anticipated. Emma's eyes met mine, her expression unreadable but serious. "Stay here," she whispered, moving toward the door with a quiet confidence that belied the tension. I could hear muffled voices outside, neighbors or perhaps someone who had seen me earlier. Every second stretched, each tick of the clock an eternity. My heels clicked nervously against the floor as I fidgeted with my skirt, feeling the soft fabric brush against my thighs and the tightness around my waist reminding me of how different my body now felt. Every nerve was alive, my senses sharpened, and the suspense was nearly suffocating. Emma opened the door, revealing a familiar face, my mother. My breath caught. Her expression was a blend of pride, satisfaction, and something deeper, almost mischievous. "I see you've embraced it," she said softly, her gaze sweeping over me. I froze, the suspense now merging with a heady cocktail of fear, excitement, and embarrassment. Mom stepped inside, her eyes locking onto mine. "You're perfect," she whispered, and the words hit me like a shockwave. I felt exposed, raw, and yet strangely exhilarated. The estrogen had changed me physically, but moments like this reshaped my perception of myself, amplifying the suspense of how others would react and how I would navigate this new reality. Emma and Mom exchanged a glance, an unspoken understanding passing between them. I realized then that the suspense was no longer just about being caught. It was about acceptance, identity, and the delicate balance of desire, fear, and transformation. My mind raced. Could I truly embrace this new identity? Could I navigate the world like this, fully seen and fully transformed? Mom reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face, and the gesture was both comforting and electrifying. "You belong here like this," she said softly. The words sent a shiver down my spine. I felt the weight of the day's suspense, the near discoveries, the public exposure, the emotional confrontations, culminate in a single, overwhelming moment. The room seemed to contract around me, every glance, every movement, every heartbeat magnified. I realized that the transformation had not only altered my body but had rewritten the dynamics of my relationships, my perception of myself, and the boundaries of my desires. The suspense wasn't external anymore. It had become a living, breathing part of me, shaping every thought and sensation. Then, a final, symbolic moment. As I adjusted my dress, a soft rip at the hem reminded me of the fragility of my situation. It was a small imperfection, yet it carried immense emotional weight. The thrill of exposure, the fear of judgment, and the intoxicating power of my new form collided, leaving me breathless. Every fiber of my being was alive with anticipation, fear, and desire. Emma's hand found mine, her touch steadying me. "No matter what happens, we face it together," she said. The reassurance was grounding, yet the suspense remained thick, tangible, and irresistible. I understood that the transformation was not an endpoint but a beginning, a perpetual dance of discovery, desire, and danger. As the night deepened, the tension eased slightly, replaced by a reflective, almost surreal awareness of my new identity. The day had tested me physically, emotionally, and psychologically. I had faced fear, embraced desire, and navigated exposure, all while discovering a thrilling new self. And yet, the suspense lingered, a promise that the story was far from over. I stood there, caught between the thrill of transformation and the uncertainty of the future, fully aware that the journey had only just begun. The estrogen, the dress, the heels, they were not just clothing or hormones. They were symbols of a profound, irreversible change. The suspense, the fear, the exhilaration, they were inseparable from this new identity. And as I looked at Emma and Mom, two anchors in this turbulent sea of change, I knew one thing with absolute certainty: nothing would ever be the same again. The suspense was far from over, and the next chapter of my life, transformed, exposed, and electrifying, was waiting just beyond the horizon. The house had finally grown quiet, but the tension in the air remained thick, almost tangible. My body still hummed with the lingering adrenaline from the day's events, the near exposures, the thrilling walks outside, and the confrontations with Emma and Mom. Every muscle was aware of the soft fabric of my dress, the unfamiliar sway of my hips, and the subtle pressure of the heels that had become a new extension of myself. I felt transformed in ways I could never have imagined, and yet, an uneasy suspense lingered, whispering that the story was far from over. Emma sat beside me on the couch, her hand resting lightly on mine. Her eyes were soft but probing, as if she were trying to measure my emotional state, trying to see the depths of my transformation and the vulnerability it had brought. "You've changed more than I ever expected," she said quietly. Her voice, calm but intense, sent shivers down my spine. The thrill of her acknowledgement was intoxicating, yet it brought with it a creeping fear. Would she ever truly accept me, fully and without reservation? Before I could answer, the front door creaked open, a sound sharp in the stillness. My heart leapt into my throat. Had someone come back? Mom? A neighbor? The suspense snapped tight around me, every nerve on edge. I clutched the hem of my dress, feeling the soft fabric tremble beneath my fingers, and looked toward the hallway. A shadow moved in the doorway. It was Mom, carrying a small, unmarked envelope. She didn't speak, just held it out to me. My fingers shook as I reached for it, the suspense almost unbearable. The envelope felt strangely heavy, its contents unknown, its potential consequences a mystery that clawed at my mind. What is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, trembling with a mix of fear and anticipation. Mom's lips curved into a knowing smile, a smile that was equal parts comforting and unnerving. "Open it when you're ready," she said softly. Her gaze lingered on me, charged with meaning, hinting at secrets and possibilities I wasn't yet prepared to face. I turned the envelope over in my hands, feeling the smooth paper and the weight of whatever lay inside. A part of me wanted to rip it open immediately, to confront whatever revelation it held. Another part, fueled by the suspense of the unknown, urged caution, promising a delayed thrill that would be all the more potent. I felt my pulse racing, every heartbeat echoing in my ears as I considered the possibilities. Emma leaned closer, her warm breath brushing my ear. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together," she murmured. Her reassurance grounded me, yet it didn't diminish the suspense. If anything, it heightened it. The day had transformed me physically, emotionally, and mentally, but this envelope, this small, seemingly innocuous piece of paper, held the potential to unravel everything. My fingers trembled as I finally broke the seal. The suspense coiled tighter around me, every second stretching impossibly long. The envelope contained a note, written in familiar handwriting, but the words were cryptic, their meaning layered with ambiguity. "The next step is yours. Choose wisely, or everything changes forever." I froze, the weight of the message sinking into my bones. What did it mean? Was it a warning, a test, or a challenge? My mind raced with possibilities, each one more suspenseful than the last. Could it be about my transformation? About my future? About Emma, Mom, or something I hadn't even considered? The uncertainty was maddening, a perfect cliffhanger that left my heart pounding and my thoughts spiraling. Emma's hand tightened around mine, pulling me gently back into the present. "We'll figure it out," she said again, her voice steady and grounding. But even her reassurance couldn't dispel the tension, the electric uncertainty that crackled in the air. I realized then that my journey had only just begun. The transformation, the thrill of exposure, and the emotional discoveries of the day were merely the prologue to something far more intense and suspenseful. I glanced at Mom, who watched me with an unreadable expression, her smile faint but knowing. She seemed to embody both the safety and the danger of my new reality, the love, the approval, and the potential for challenge all wrapped into one. The suspense hung over us like a storm cloud, heavy and inevitable, promising that the choices I made next would shape everything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I held the envelope tightly. My mind raced, my body hummed with adrenaline, and my heart thudded with a thrilling mix of fear and excitement. The suspense was absolute, complete, and agonizingly delicious. I had been transformed, tested, and exposed, and now the real challenge loomed just ahead, hidden in the cryptic message that refused to be ignored. I looked at Emma and Mom, their faces illuminated by the fading light, and felt a strange, intoxicating mix of certainty and uncertainty. Everything I had experienced today, the hormones, the dress, the heels, the exposure, the intimacy, the fear, had led to this moment. And yet, the story was far from over. The envelope, the unknown choices, the hidden possibilities, they promised suspense, drama, and transformation that would continue to unfold in ways I couldn't yet imagine. I took a deep breath, letting the anticipation build, the suspense stretching taut like a drawn bowstring. The cliffhanger was complete, leaving me, Emma, Mom, and the audience suspended on the edge of revelation, eager for what would come next. And in that moment, I realized one undeniable truth. My life, my identity, and my transformation had changed forever, and nothing would ever be the same again.